Faith organizations in Canada have long enjoyed charitable tax status, largely because our governments have recognized the public benefit associated with promoting religion and its principles. But a special Senate committee has been studying how to modernize Canadian charity law. Some groups are concerned changes could be on the horizon that might adversely affect religious charities. Joining me now via Skype from Waterloo, Ontario is Reverend John Pellowe, CEO of CCCC, the Canadian Council of Christian Charities. John, welcome to Bridge City News.
Well, thank you very much, Al. Glad to have this opportunity to talk with you.
Now, John, you made a presentation to the Special Senate Committee on the charitable sector recently, asking them to affirm advancing religion as a charitable purpose with significant public benefit to Canadian society. Why did you decide to make this presentation?
Well, there were two things going on. The first is that there have been a lot of calls for advancing religion to be eliminated in Canada as a charitable purpose. So we have the Abortion Rights Coalition of Canada, we have the BC Humanist Association, and lots of others. Lawyer activists, legal activists have been calling for this for some time. And we just thought, you know what, it's timely that we go on record demonstrating that we don't have to apologize saying it's just interior spiritual benefits, but we actually benefit the entire society of Canada. The most atheistic person in Canada benefits because of religion. But the second reason was that the BC Humanist Association did make a specific recommendation to this committee that they should consider recommending taking away charitable status for religious charities. And that's the two reasons. Those are the ones that we were responding to. And we felt it was important to get it on the record, the wealth of academic level research around the world that proves beyond a shadow of a doubt the many, many, many benefits of advancing religion.
So, John, bottom line is, let me ask you, how well was this received?
It seems to have been received very well. The committee, apparently their heads were nodding as I was speaking. They were intrigued by the report that was submitted, the written report that is available to the public. And they asked me to come in to speak more about it. So I think that was a very positive step. The surprise was they really had no questions, which left me feeling, were they engaged? However, knowledgeable people have said that yes, the fact that there were no questions means there's nothing I said that they want to challenge, and that the topic itself to them is apparently not controversial. So those are very good signs for us.
That is very good news, absolutely. Now, we've seen some court rulings, such as the TWU law school case, where religious rights seem to fall to the bottom of the pile. There was a question and answer time afterward with senators. Was there a tone aimed at maybe discrediting religion as having a public benefit at all?
No, there was no hint of that. They asked some questions about rural charities such as churches and where they get help from, things like that, but not related to the topic. And it was actually a very respectful, a very good hearing.
Now, there are about 32,000 religious charities in Canada, which makes up about 40% of all charities in Canada. If charitable tax status is removed, how would this really impact all faiths, religions across the country?
Well, the impact, I think, would surprise some people. People give to their churches not for the tax benefit, but because they want to give to their churches. So the churches may be impacted to a degree, but religious people give much more to secular charities than secular people do. And if we don't have as much money left over because we paid more tax, we're going to support our religious charities. We're not going to support the secular charities likely as much. It's the secular charities actually that are the most concerned, from what I hear and what they tell me. They are the ones that are most concerned about religion losing its charitable status because they know that their big donors are people who attend a place of worship regularly. So and then the other thing, we've done a study that has looked at churches and it's looked at the economic benefit, social economic benefit, and they put a dollar value to it. The study has been replicated in various places, but the nutshell is for every dollar that a charity spends, it puts $4.50 of value into its community. And when you compare that value to the lost tax revenue, through the income tax support, through sales tax they don't collect, and municipal property taxes, guess what? Canadian taxpayers get a 12 times return on investment for every dollar of tax that is lost or not collected because of a religious charity. So for them, if it can put money into the federal coffers say religious donors are going to pay more tax, but at the same time, if they want the same benefits to the secular society, it's a $12 for every dollar they take in, they're going to have to spend $12 more.
But John, if the government was to remove the tax-exempt status of religious organizations, would it mean billions more of tax revenue for a debt-ridden government?
Yes, it would. So if you're looking only in the short term, there would be extra dollars coming into the coffers. But if you're looking long term at the social economic benefits that are provided to the community, whether you're religious or not, that is in jeopardy. And that's why we went to this committee, because that message, nobody knows that message. The researchers know it, but it hasn't had broad public play. So we want to get it on the record in an official government document that advancing religion provides tremendous public benefits, whether you are religious or not. That's our key message.
Let me ask you, is there also a need to close some loopholes to prevent certain groups from getting charitable tax status?
I don't know if I would call them loopholes. That sounds nefarious, but there are organizations. We're not allowed to do things that are against the law. Okay, so and we do have hate laws, and so, but we already have protection for those in place. We don't need to. For instance, the government introduced a values test with the Canada Summer Jobs issue, and there are people who are saying that a values test should also be applied to charities. And what they're trying to do is to weed out those who have unpopular views. There's a difference between unpopular view and hate speech. And once you go as a society saying we're going to use a values test, then the question is whose values? So right now we have a government of one stripe in place, and they may like a values test. However, should they be defeated and another government of a different ideology come in, now we're going by their values. This is not a good place to be.
Yeah, we talked to a lot of Christian groups. We talked to a lot of Christian groups, John, that had a problem with that attestation in regards to the Summer Jobs Grant Program. Do you agree with abortion, a woman's right to choose? I mean, you know, or you're not going to receive funding for your landscaping business. So a lot of business owners, Christian and even not Christian, had a problem with that.
Oh, absolutely. And the whole thing was premised on something that is actually faulty, because we don't have a right to abortion. We have that's a whole other topic, and it'll take us off. But there are people who believe we do, and they happen to be in power.
So how does the CRA go about determining who does or does not qualify as a religious charitable organization?
Well, there are tests that they have to do. So there has to be, they get all kinds of, I would call them really wacky applications. So they're looking for, is there a God or a higher power or something? Is there a sort of a coherent doctrine to it? So we have the Bible and there's the Quran and so on. So they're looking for, are there evidence? Is it a communal thing? Does it bring a community together? CRA pays a lot of attention to legal precedents. That's how they have to decide. Everything goes back to court cases and what judges have said. So it is it's not always easy. Seems to be working okay so far.
So how does the CRA define what exactly provides a public benefit? I mean, you talked about a sense of community coming together. What else?
Yes. Okay. What they're looking at is that it's not what's called a private benefit. So if you have a charity set up to support a particular family, that's not public. That's a private benefit. So they're looking at, do you actually engage with the public? Are people welcome to take part? Do you serve a broad enough segment? Now, you might say we exist for to have a shelter for abused women, for example. So it's a limited population, but you haven't restricted it to this person or that person. So that's public. There was a famous case of a group of nuns in the UK who just got together and their entire life was just praying for the country. That was not deemed to be a public benefit. They didn't actually, they didn't engage with anybody. They were just in there all by themselves praying, and that was the support, the total of it. So it needs to benefit a significantly large part of the population, that it is not a personal benefit to someone else.
But when two or more gather in his name and they pray, there's a huge benefit there, you bet.
Oh, The spiritual side, we would say, oh, absolutely, that's a very powerful form of prayer. The government doesn't accept that.
No, right. Now, some may ask, how do religious activities benefit non-religious people, John?
Oh, in many ways. For instance, anytime a secular person goes to a secular charity, most of the support they're receiving came from religious people who learned how to be generous and gracious in their places of worship. When the community programming, there was a study done here in Ontario, 46 churches, and they discovered that the non-religious people in the community were 4.5 times more likely to use their outreach programs than the church members were themselves. When we think about, if you go to the very abstract level, that just the fact that there is religion, that the freedom of religion is what's called a prototypical right. So the freedom of the press, the freedom of assembly, the freedom of speech, all of those freedoms come out of the freedom of religion, and so they benefit from that. And freedom of religion, former Chief Justice Dixon of the Supreme Court of Canada said it's prototypical, and it's essential to a liberal democracy that you have this there. Now, other ways that they benefit is that it's been documented many, many times that people who attend a place of worship once a week or more are less depressive, they are less sick, they're drawing on fewer resources, they are more productive in society, higher educational. Like, there's all these things that a secular person still benefits because the quality of the neighborhood is more vibrant, it's better. So they actually benefit in like really many different ways.
So which types of religious groups are potentially at risk of losing their charitable status? Your thoughts?
Well, we'd have to see what comes forward. I know that there's a push that if you don't agree on issues of sexuality and gender, abortion, for example, there is a very strong push to take the charitable status away. They'll say, okay, you can have your beliefs, but we don't have to support you. So that's probably the most realistic scenario, rather than pulling it away from everybody. It would be more on, are you in line with so-called Canadian values? Uh, the ones that would be probably hurt the most if they took religion away would be evangelism ministries. Compassion ministries qualify under other heads. Local churches are going to see some fall off, but people will support their local church. But the pure evangelism ministries, they're the ones that really struggle in other parts of the world where advancing religion is not charitable.
John, we've got the fall election coming up here in Canada. Where are we at now when it comes to faith-based organizations potentially getting involved in politics?
Wow, things have changed just recently, Al, with a court ruling that took place. We still cannot be partisans. We can't say vote for this party or candidate or that one. So we can't be partisan. But there used to be a cap of about 10% that what we charity could put towards political activity. So we can that's been taken away. So when the election comes up, in the election period, churches and Christian ministries are free to talk as much as they want about issues that are in the political world. They just need to be tied to their charitable purpose. So, for instance, a church pastor would be able to preach as often as they want. If, say, abortion were an election issue, they would be able to preach as much as they want on the topic of life and abortion. Uh, they just couldn't say, and so vote for. That's still not changed. But this has really opened the door, and that's why, for example, the Abortion Rights Coalition of Canada, just a few weeks ago, has come out and said that we should take away the status, because now all these churches can go out and proclaim as much as they want. They're using that court ruling against us, wanting to shut us down.
Now, with the track record of our current Liberal government, is it possible that maybe pro-life organizations will be losing their charitable tax status?
The current government does not seem to recognize the difference between, say, a right to life group, which is political advocacy, and they're the ones with the placards and so forth. They don't seem to recognize the difference between that and a crisis pregnancy center. I think that is the one is not charitable, and the pregnancy centers are charitable. And I think there's this confusion out there as to what exactly is a pregnancy center. I think they're under a lot of fire for things that they actually don't do. So they would be seriously at risk. I think if there's a second mandate, I can't get too political myself, but if there were a second mandate, given the trajectory that we're on, that would not be a surprising development.
Reverend John Pellowe, CEO of CCCC, the Canadian Council of Christian Charities, thanks a lot for joining me today from Waterloo, Ontario.
You're very welcome. Thank you. God bless.
You too. On behalf of all of us here at BCN, I'm Hal Roberts. God bless and have a great night.